Hello everyone, we are here today for our third and final session of our Design Thinking webinar series. Today we'll discuss various case studies of brands like PillPack and Uber Eats and how they used design thinking effectively to accelerate their brand's growth and understand their users more deeply and their needs. For that, we have today with us Saloni. She is the product designer at the RedX V School Lab. And yeah, over to you, Saloni.
Awesome. Thank you, Fatima. Can we share the slides? Awesome. So we'll start off just with a brief introduction and like a recap about what the design process is and what comes under the design process. And then we'll move on to the case studies to really understand like how people have actually used the design process and different methodologies to solve different problems. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as we had discussed in the earlier sessions about the design process, like why design process is useful and where it can be used. So I'll just briefly go over that. Generally, design process is very flexible in terms of like how you want to use it for different problem areas or different solutions that you want to work on. But it really helps you when you have a problem area to understand like some of the factors which are unknown or which aren't really defined that well. So the methodologies under this process itself help you understand the different human needs that are involved in the user research part and like to cater the solution for the users. It helps you really reframe the problem according to what the user's needs and their um, wants would be. So generally, like if you get a problem area from somewhere or if sort of like a brief is given to you, it's not really well researched. So the process helps you to understand what the real problem is, or like even if a problem is too wide, what are the underlying problems. So once the user research is done, where you have understood about the user, you can also use the other methodologies to create ideas, concepts for through brainstorming sessions or through mind mapping. And you also can prototype and test a lot of these ideas and concepts to understand which ones work or what kind of iterations have to be done. Can we go next, please? So the main five stages of the process are empathizing with the user. So here, basically, you try to understand what the user's daily life is, the lifestyle is, how the problem occurs, or like what kind of environment the problem is occurring in. This is where you really go and talk to the user, live their life if you can. Live their life in the sense like understand like what kind of choices do they make, what kind of environment are they in. Once you have a good enough understanding about the user and their lifestyle and the problem, you try to define the problem again, or like if you already have it, then you define it again, or if you're working from scratch, then you try to define it so that you can start working on the solution. um, that leads to the ideation phase where you use different ideation techniques. So this could be brainstorming. You can like your whole team can come together and try to conceptualize different solutions that could work. So this is where you go wild and you just think about a lot of ideas, and then in this phase itself you try to come up with maybe like two or three ideas which you think can be viable solutions, which help you understand what are the different ideas that you'd want to prototype and make them come to life. And then then in the last stage you really test out what you have developed in the prototyping stage. This is where you go back to the user or you do different tests for um, understanding what kind of changes have to be done to the concepts, or like if you have two three concepts that you have prototyped, you can see like which ones work the best or what kind of iteration should be done. So this is generally the structure which is followed, but this is also flexible according to your team size, your problem area, or even how much time you have. So a lot of times this can be repeated, like all these stages can be repeated according to, for example, if you have done a test and you see there are some scopes for changing, but you'd want to understand from the user's perspective again, you can go back to the empathizing stage. Or if you think that the problem that you had identified earlier is not really the right problem, you can also restructure the problem. So you can redefine the problem statement too, and you can basically follow the whole process multiple times to really get to the most effective solution. So this is like from a very zoomed out view what the process looks like as a whole. But we'll go into a couple of case studies to see like how different companies have used these processes and different methodologies to really solve a problem, and how they have been impacted by that too. Can we go next, please? So the first case study that we're looking at is PillPack. So PillPack is basically a service in the pharmaceutical area where they basically have deliveries for different medications. What we really liked about their whole system and their solution was the simplicity of their product, and how they really make the whole system very user friendly for people who have to take multiple medications in a day or in a week. So can we go next, please? So what they wanted to tackle as a problem area was medication in general has a huge scope for confusion about what like this is for people who have to take multiple medications in a day. It can get very confusing about either the timing or the dosage or different pills that they have to take. And it can involve a lot of stakeholders, and it is quite complex for like any company to deal with something like this. Can we go next, please? So when they started with this working on this problem area, this was one of the stats that they uh, found, that around 40% of people over 65 take 5 or more medications per day, which is huge. Like for people who are in that age group, it gets difficult to keep a track of all this. Next, please. Some of the existing solutions which were already there but weren't really that useful, like they were being used but they weren't as easy to use. So the first one was like the pill box, which is generally used by a lot of people, but here the main problem or the catch is you have to organize all the pills according to different days, so that is the user's effort put in. So for example, at my home, my mom does it for my grandmom, but that gets very complicated. For one is to keep track of which medicine has to go in which day, and in the same day there are different types of doses too, for example for before lunch or after dinner. So that ways this is quite cumbersome. The next one was similar to this, but they're basically pill dispensers, which have some electronic unit embedded in the product itself, where according to the different time or different time or day, the pills are dispensed. But here the catch is like this gets quite expensive, and you have to have some sort of technological understanding to actually use this product. And the so like these two have been more of the physical parallel products. The third one is basic reminder apps, where you are shown which kind of pill you have to take in the app itself, and you get a reminder, like an alarm sort of thing to remind you, like you have to take that pill, but that again needs a smartphone, or it doesn't really have any physical aspect of the whole solution. So these all were basically there in the market, but then none of them were as effective as like a solution could be. Next, please. So we'll just quickly look at what Pillbox has done so far as a product. Fatima, we're not able to hear the audio.
Just a
So
second,
yes,
just a
yeah,
second.
sure. Yeah, take your time. So while Fatima is trying to get the video on, so the the founders and co-founders of PillPack basically have been designers, and one of their father, I think, was working in the same industry. So they already had a huge like exposure to this whole industry. So that actually helped them to understand the users in a really like effective manner and pinpoint what the exact problems were in this whole system.
PillPack is a new kind of pharmacy. We package your medication and deliver it directly to your door. All you have to do is tear and take your next dose. Managing your medication has never been easier. Here's how it works. Each month, we'll sort your meds, including any vitamins and OTCs, into easy-to-open packets. Need other items like inhalers, creams, or testing supplies? We can send those too. We'll work directly with your doctors and insurance to resolve any issues. We'll adjust your medication if your prescriptions change, and we'll automatically handle all of your refills so you never have to worry. If you have questions or need to make an update, our pharmacists are available 24/7. Getting started is easy. You'll need your insurance information and a list of current medications. From there, we'll handle the rest. We'll verify your account and transfer your prescriptions to our pharmacy. You'll receive your first package in just a few weeks. Now, you'll never sort your pills, never stand in line at a pharmacy, and never miss your medication again. It's your medication made easy.
Can we go next, please?
PillPack.
Yeah. So basically, after a lot of user research and talking to different people and understanding what their real problems are in this whole space, they sort of did four of these things, which was a synchronization in the sense like taking the medicine and organizing the medicine. So that kind of synchronization is done by them. So the user does not have to put pills in a box or in this packet that comes already done for them. So they just have to like the information is clearly displayed on the packet itself, the most important information that is, so like at what time they have to take that medicine and when is that, so the day and the date. So they just have to open the packet and consume the medicines. The personalization is done through their platform, which is accessible through the website and through their app, where you just basically put in what all are your prescribed medications. You can also like if you have other apps which take care of your, for example, Practo, or if there are other platforms which take care of your information about medicines or doctors, so you can also pair them up, or you can pair your doctor's information with them. So they basically contact your doctor themselves. So you don't have to do that again and again about different medicines, or if you have to repeat any medicine, if your medicine has ended, they talk to the doctor directly about any change in dosage. So that kind of personalization really helps to cut down into the amount of effort the user has to take themselves. The reminder is done in two forms. One is obviously the physical product, which is there. They don't really have an electronic component in it, but just the text on the sachet itself helps you just get reminded about what time it is. But for a more like intrusive way of reminding. They also have an app where they send you an alarm or a reminder about when you have to take your medicine. They also have a feature about location too, in case like you have to take some medicines according to different areas. And for integration efficiently was like integration was basically about the doctors getting in touch with the pharmacists and these people to basically having all the medicines sorted beforehand, before the whole product comes to you. So yeah, like this was what they were able to do successfully, and this has been a huge success in terms of helping people with their medicine intake and reducing the amount of problems that can happen with like the wrong dosage intake. Can you go next, please? One of the major things that helped them was develop a whole system which is low tech from the user's point of view. So the whole process and the product and the strategy, it all of it became really affordable for the user. But to do that, they also had to make a very sophisticated backend program where they can there cannot be any scope for errors in this area. So the backend had to be very high tech in that sense. So one of the main things that they've been talking about is the image recognition system that they had created to see like each sachet has the right like the right tablet in terms of like they try to understand and check if they have the right tablets through the size, shape, color, and density of the pill which is in the packet. And they have multiple claims that there has been no error so far, and there won't be any error in terms of like you getting the right or the wrong medicine. So yeah, that ways it has been really like they did a really good job. And a couple of years back, they were also acquired by Amazon for $1 billion. So that was one of the big ways of seeing like how they've been really successful too, along with the user feedback. So yeah, this was about PillPack. Can we go next, please? The next one we want to cover is Uber Eats, where this is more of a digital case study where we're looking at like how they've developed multiple features and how they try to understand their customers and delivery partners and restaurant partners. So their problems weren't really according to like exact user problems, but since they are operating in different cultures and different cities, they really have to understand the cuisines and the culture of the people around that area. So they've created some methodologies to do that. Can you go next, please? So their team also talks about like how they want to bring together the technology of smartphone and having different types of food at your fingertips, but also um, capturing the like age-old activity of eating and enjoying different cuisines. Can you go next, please? So to really understand their like different areas and different cultures, they have a walkabout program where all of the team members go and try to eat in different places in a new city if they're opening their service in. Uh, so this is one to understand like what the culture is like. Next is to understand like what are the restaurant places and the users who are actually eating there. What is that environment like? So once they go through this whole program, they try to develop different like whenever if they're developing a software, like one part of the software, they also have this order shadowing technique of once that piece of software has been developed, they make the users, whoever the software is meant for, use the prototype, and they are present there. So like physically, they try to understand like how the user is interacting with the prototype. And the last one that they have is a fireside chat program where um, they bring together the users who are basically going to order the food, the restaurant owners and the delivery partners, and see like how they are working with the app and like what kind of feedback do they have. So this gives them a very real-time understanding about um, what the feedback is like. Can you go next, please? So this was a quote from a team member of theirs that they try to generate innovations and new ways for people to eat. And since they have multiple stakeholders, so one is the people who are actually ordering, the next is the restaurants who are actually running their business through the app, and the delivery partners. So they try to make the solution for all three of them and not just the users who are eating. Can we go next, please? So these were some of the new things that they tried out. So one was for the driver partners. They wanted to give them as much opportunities as were possible. So since they have the Uber ride sharing platform too, the person who's delivering can switch between either delivering food or being a driver at Uber too. Then the next one is like for the restaurant owners, they have a platform where the chefs can really see what kind of demand is for different dishes, and they can also like according to the feedback that they receive, they can tweak their menus and prepare like if there is a huge demand at one particular point of time for one dish, they can also monitor that too to prepare in advance. The third one was like they saw a lot of people were not ordering because of the amount of time that the delivery would take or the preparation would take. So they introduced a under 30-minute menu where people can just order something and get it under 30 minutes. So these three have been quite successful for them as features. Can you go next, please? So this was one of the features that they developed after going through the whole fireside chat methodology, where they basically understood that the drivers were having a difficult time when they went to pick up an order. They could not find the parking space, so they made this whole feature where the driver can see all the steps where, for example, like what direction they have to take to reach to the restaurant, but also where they can park. So this made the whole process really easy for the driver too. Please. This was another one which right now we all know, I think, is you can track your own delivery, like how long is it gonna take. But yeah, like this was done after a lot of iterations and after really understanding like what the users what were feeling like when they had ordered something and how they want to keep a real-time check about what's happening with their food. Can you go next, please? So yeah, we are open for any questions that anyone would have so far. Then we can maybe go on to the design process that we've been using at REDX and where we've used it so far.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about PillPack, right? So
Yeah.
is it implemented in India right now?
No, so far I don't think it is. It's more of a they had done it in US, but yeah, I was also looking for something similar if there is, but I couldn't find in India something similar.
So do you think like will it be successful if implemented in India? Like people here do not have much trust in these kind of things, and especially when it comes to medication and all, they really don't want to get these loose packets. Like as it
Yeah.
was shown, the pills were packaged in one packet. So do you think
Yeah.
that can be a success in India?
I think it'll depend on a lot of factors. One is basically like, for example, if it is maybe tied with any insurance company, or if there's some sort of backing to the company, and also obviously the price structure that is there. Like I personally would use it, like if I had an option for my family members, because like if I obviously get the trust that the medicines are being handled hygienically and the whole company is trustworthy. But yeah, definitely for that to work, like they would need to work on their image and like who all are they partnering with. So if there are enough partnerships maybe with doctors or hospitals or different healthcare industry stakeholders, then I think it could be a viable option.
Yeah, Saloni. So thanks for that particular answer. So just wanted to add. So Trisha, when the personal practitioner doctors, they have the clinics, right? They generally tend to give you loose medicines in a different transferable packets, right? I hope everyone must have observed it. And addition to that, they give the other prescription where you actually go and buy from the uh, chemist, right? So if the doctor, we can, as Saroni correctly said, if we can tie up with the doctor himself, then we can have a better confidence level for the patients.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. If there aren't any other questions, maybe we can move on. Or should we wait, Fatima?
I think we can go ahead. We can take
Okay.
questions at the end also.
Awesome. All right. So since we are a lot of designers too, like we do follow the design process at the lab too. We've been using them mostly for all of the projects, but some of them are more like design heavy projects. So this is one of them where we were trying to get into the area of waste segregation and waste management. But so far, like till this project was taken up, we were working on the healthcare project. So here we really had to do a lot of user research to understand what the whole environment was like for this kind of problem area. And since this was something very new, this was done like a couple of years back, but since like at that time there wasn't any plastic ban in Maharashtra, so yeah, like this was something like a new territory that we were going into. So we had to do a lot of user research, and like we wanted to develop a solution in the waste management area, but we weren't really sure like what would be the most effective thing to work on. So yeah, the user research really helped us understand the problem area, what kind of product can be developed could be helpful, because like not a lot of products aren't available in this whole section area too. Yeah, so we can go next. Maybe we can talk about some of the user research that we've done. So like we try to understand what the waste management area looks like at the home level and not really at the municipal or the government level. So we tried to talk to a lot of homemakers to understand what kind of waste management was happening. This obviously varied a lot, since waste management at different homes was very different. So there were people who were segregating their solid waste or composting some of their wet waste, but there were obviously also people who did not know anything about segregation, or they weren't really doing it even if they knew it. But since we had things like kabadiwalas, raddiwalas, some of this waste management was happening at homes. We also talked to evangelists who were trying to live the zero waste lifestyle, where they were trying to reduce as much, not reduce, but they had actually gone to using plastic as less as possible, and going into the zero waste area. Then we also talked to different activists and experts in these areas. who were composting, recycling, or segregating waste at home, and also talking about it so that people would also do it. So like after we talked to all of these people, we understood that there were three categories of people who, like, one was basically who were not managing or segregating waste at home. The next was people who were segregating some sort of waste. So these could be newspapers, plastic bottles, glass bottles, and then selling it off. And the third was basically people who were living almost the zero waste lifestyle, and they had a very good understanding about what this whole movement was about and why it was so useful. Can we go next, please? So when we developed, so we developed basically a Putol, this Putol product, which is helpful to manage and segregate dry waste at home. So one of the main things that we saw was a lot of people were confused about what all should be segregated or what all can be recycled or reused. So we tried to keep the product as clear as possible. So we had different sections for plastic, different sections for metal, glass, paper, electronics. So and this whole product was aimed at people who were sort of segregating some of these things, but like they were just putting them around different corners behind the fridge, under the desk, or like they had been segregating, but there wasn't a dedicated space for it. So we tried to make a product which could actually help them do this. And also maybe like they could become evangelists, so people who are coming at home, or there could be a whole social movement for that. Um, so, so when we were actually trying to understand like what kind of waste is being produced, we also tried to see like what kind of sizes of these compartments would be the most helpful. For example, in a month, how much newspaper is collected. So we tried to keep the size and the product size according to that data that we collected. And also the material of the product, since these people were quite passionate about like what comes into their home, we wanted to keep the product also sustainable. So we used cardboard, but it also has a laminate on it so that the life cycle of the product itself can be increased. This whole thing, basically like this whole exercise of developing this product helped us understand like how just managing solid waste at home can reduce the amount of waste that lands into the landfill by 70%. So yeah, it was really helpful to just conduct the user research and talk to all these people. So this is what we have so far for this product, and we also have used design process in multiple other projects. So maybe in future series we could cover those too. So, yeah, so if anyone has any questions or yeah, any doubts, we can take those.
We also have this Putol project in our lab, and whenever college starts, you guys can come to the lab and have a look. And we've been using it for 3 years now, and it's still in shape. So if you all are interested, you all can come and see it.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, hi, go ahead.
Parag this side from PGDM Core. So that was a great session, I would say. Uh, just I think I'm attending these series for the very first time. Like I somehow missed the first two lectures. But I would love to know more about RedX. Like how can we be a part of some project of RedX, or like we can contribute in some way or other.
So both, do you want to take that?
So, hi Parag, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah. So as of now, we don't have any formal procedure to take students on board, but we are definitely looking at how we can take and then collaborate with the students. So the resources and the technology expertise that we have in the REDX, of course, the students are welcome at any particular point of time. You can come visit a lab. Virtually, if you have any queries, we are there to help you out with the technological stack. Now, what we want is like if you want to come on board, you should come up with some kind of strong idea, some innovative idea if you have. And then if you want to work in that particular research domain, which is inclined towards maybe design thinking, healthcare, or AI, ML, whatever the technological stack that you are interested in, we are definitely would love to hear you. So we welcome you. Of course, we don't have a formal collaboration as of now, but we would love to have you on board.
Okay, sir. So as of now, also I was just visiting the website of REDX. So there are several such projects listed out there. So I was going through them. So all these projects are done by the the faculty itself, or some student involvement was also there.
So all REDX employees, so these are not students. So Saloni, Fatima, there is Sushant, there is Adish and Amit. So they all, so apart from me, all are the working employees. So I'm taking the additional charge of the assistant professor. So uh, most of the projects I think they have done by these guys. Student, so we help the students. Suppose they wanted to participate in hackathon or any other particular competition. Say most of our students was, I think last year, if Saloni, if you remember, like we helped one particular team for their Reliance competition where they wanted to have a 3D model. So that reminds me, as Fatima has said, the put all system, the put all design that you just now saw, it's also available in the application. So we have this REDX APK file that you can actually install from the website. And if you go to the website, since you have already visited the website, there's a AR experience tab where you can actually go download that APK file, and then you will see the different products that we have. So one of them is the put all. So since because of this particular pandemic, you are not able to visit the lab physically, but we have made this available with the AR experience. So you can see the product. You can touch, feel virtually with the augmented reality.
Okay, sure. So I will definitely download it.
Right. So if you want, Fatima, you can just quickly paste the link in a chat window, or that will be great so people can use it. Any other query? If you have, we would be happy to help you out.
Ayushi this side. Am I audible?
Hi, Ayushi. Yes. Yeah, you're audible.
So we were studying about the Uber Eats case study, and the question just came into my mind that, as per my knowledge, I might be wrong, but that Swiggy and Zomato were the more popular as compared to Uber. So, what do you think, according to all you guys, where Uber lacks in design or in innovation, why it was not able to be as prominent as Swiggy and Zomato?
I think the first thing that would come to my mind was they were a little late to India, but like they started off in US first. But yeah, in India already Swiggy and Zomato were already there, so they were able to set their base first, and they got a lot of users onboarded. And then Uber Eats came, and then they were acquired by Zomato itself. So they basically merged with them, and that helped both of the companies. But yeah, I think that would be the main thing. So both and
As
Fatima,
we
if you guys.
considered about the design or innovation, there was nothing additional Swiggy and Zomato were doing that Uber Eats like failed to do it. So there was nothing on a major
Um,
broad scale. If you talk about.
Nothing really comes to my mind that was very different. But yeah, I think like it would be interesting to look into it, like what kind of differences were there to really understand what these changes were.
Okay, I think there aren't any questions. So we can end the session here. And thank you all for attending. And if you haven't attended the past two sessions of our design thinking webinar series, they are there on our YouTube channel. And I would request you all to fill in the feedback form that I have pasted in the chat. It would be really helpful for us to get your feedback and your insights on it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.